they are always still just these men that are trapped in this genetic dynasty, trapped in these molds. And at the end of the day, every man, every person just wants like to be free and do what they want.
It's a way for them to control the Clavigers by holding the family as hostages, which to me seems like a direct response to like what happened with Belle.
I love this version of Day. This is my favorite Day.
Yeah.
I do have one more theory about the Mule. Okay.
Hello and welcome to Road Goes Ever On and On. Today, Mark and I are talking about the hit science fiction TV show from Apple TV+, Foundation, Season 3, Episode 3, When a Book Finds You, so spoilers are ahead. And if you're enjoying our content, then a like would be appreciated. And if you don't want to miss a single one of our breakdowns, then just be sure to subscribe and click the bell icon for notifications. And with that, what are your overall thoughts so far?
I'm loving it. I'm now a full Foundation stan. I love this episode. It feels like something we haven't really seen in Foundation. We kind of get like a club party vibe in a city. There's, a little bit of like, we see like a library and shady stuff happening between Empire and Gale. And then we see like the Cleons just like being brothers. Like, I don't think we've ever really seen that.
I really like that moment.
I did too. Like, we don't really see that in the show. They're all very like business and cranky and like, we got to do this. I love seeing them just being like, we're kind of all in this shit together. Like, let's hang out.
I think with all the different worlds that they have and like the time gaps, it kind of feels like Foundation is able to reinvent itself a little bit, and for that to not feel weird, so it's like some of the episodes or some of the seasons feel different from the other ones, but there's still enough there that's familiar that it still like holds, and I really like that. I also appreciate the fact that I think this season they're generally focusing on maybe like 2 worlds at a time, so I don't feel like they're hopping too much between like 3 different storylines. I feel like compared to last season, which was a great season, absolutely loved it. But I do feel like I already have a little bit better idea of how things connect. I don't necessarily know how and when Terminus comes in, but I do at least trust them that like it's all going to come together at some point in some way.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see more Terminus. I really liked that guy that talked to Harry, the guy that figured out psychohistory on his own, self-taught. Like, I thought he was a really cool character, and I'm excited to see more of him. But yeah, Terminus is just kind of doing its own thing. Especially also with Terminus, there was that like weird stuff with Harry where he felt kind of dismissive a little bit, and seems like he might have his own agenda, which could be something crazy that happens.
Right. Like the fact that Second Foundation didn't know that he gave away the Prime Radiant, you know?
And so first off, loved that scene with Gale and Dawn meeting each other. A couple of reasons. First, when I first watched the episode, so I watched it twice, I missed where it said 3 years ago. So I thought this was this was happening in the moment. And then I saw it said now on my first watch through. And so then I was like, okay, maybe there was a time gap. But in the previous episodes, we even talked about Dawn being this like, kind of this guy that was like really hungry to fix Empire and bring it back to what Empire used to be, only to find out that he's been working with Gale the whole time, which is mind-blowing. And I loved this version of Gale when she was talking to Dawn. This is the first time, like, we've seen a lot of Gale go through the first season, the second season, and she has been growing, but there's so many other characters that are also growing that it feels like it's a little easy to miss the growth of Gale. And watching her speak to Dawn and being so in control. Yes. Like, I think about like when they bring up the trial of Harry Seldon, and she was so timid at that time. She let Harry like lie for her and like get her into trouble and get her sent to Terminus. And then seeing this version of her where she was just manipulating Dawn, it was just brilliant.
Yeah, it really felt like she was very confident at this point, you know? Like you said, like she seemed very in control of the situation.
Oh, yeah.
Which I think then like really kind of that flash of like when she was surprised to hear that the Prime Radiant had been like that he had seen the Prime Radiant. I think that actually made that a little bit more obvious of like the one moment she kind of like dropped her bravado of being like completely in control because like she was aware of things that she shouldn't know about, like the fact that Day is basically the one in control and that, or Dawn is in control and that Day is kind of out.
Yeah, derelict of duty.
So I definitely really enjoyed that scene. I think it also, you know, brought up the Dawn that went off with Sereth, and it did kind of make me wonder whether or not we aren't going to get more of that story and whether or not, you know, maybe Demerzel did find and punish and like end those two. Like
he considered them traitors.
Exactly.
But I did love what that whole mention of like how Cleons get to this point where they do try to run, I think it solidifies how crazy that Demerzel's control over the genetic dynasty really is. Like, we have always thought that the Cleons were in control and Demerzel was kind of just, you know, there to help assist them. And then last season we get the bombshell that she's actually the one in control. And it also connects to like the Cleons are supposed to be like in their place. They're supposed to do their thing. They're supposed to like, they have rules to follow and they're supposed to like fit in their mold. And we see that Dawn's run away, but also Dusk's run away from like when they're supposed to be,
yes, it's
their time to be, you know, to ascend. And that's their mold that they're supposed to go in. And they run away because at that last minute, they are always still just these men that are trapped in this genetic dynasty, trapped in these molds. And at the end of the day, every man, every person just wants like to be free and do what they want.
It's interesting because I think it kind of like reframes the way that you look at them, because it sounds like possibly all Dawns have these kind of feelings. Maybe they don't completely understand them. Maybe they don't get the chance to act on them. So it sounds like they want to break free of the system, and that at some point, probably around the transition from Dawn to Day, that everything that Demerzel has been working on up to this point, that she finally gets them to become a Day that takes his place and does what he's supposed to do. But then at the end, when they realize that that their time is about to come up, they start to have those pangs of like wanting freedom again. So, and there's something kind of sad about that, because once again, Demerzel isn't forcing them into this mold because that's what she wants. She was programmed into this. So like all of these Cleons, however many that was, I don't remember what the number was. All of these Cleons, like Demerzel, it's all just this one system that has put all of this in motion, that's keeping all of these people trapped in these cycles.
Oh God, I know it's, well, first, we do see also this Day, I feel like, is trying to escape his responsibilities. Like, it does seem like the Dawn, she gets back on track to fulfill what they're supposed to do. But it seems like the 24th Cleon, he's, as Day, he's like trying to be like, I want out of this. I don't want to be a part of this. And like that moment at the end when we see Day hates Demerzel. Like he is, I think he's afraid of her. He doesn't, maybe not afraid of her, but he doesn't want to be controlled by her. He hates being controlled by her. And watching the like pain of Demerzel, because it's not her choice, but she absolutely loves Cleon and she loves him. And in getting rid of his partner and sparing her life, she's like showing like, you know, I know it's shitty, but I love you and I'm trying to do this for you because I care for you so much. And he just hates her with every fiber of his being. And it is just, that was like one of the most painful like scenes to watch. And him just shouting in her face. It was just, Phenomenal acting, both of them.
Especially once again, like when you realize that they all are prisoners, and that prison that extends further and further. It was interesting seeing Maven, the Clavager, like his first Clavager. It's interesting learning that the Clavagers are given homes by Empire so that they can house their family, but that's not a kindness. It's a way for them to control the Clavagers by holding the family as hostages, which to me seems like a direct response to like what happened with Bell. That they realize that this is a weakness of, the people that run our military. What if our military, which is a strong force, turns against us? And so some day, probably led by Demerzel, locked that down. So now there's even a larger group that's kind of like trapped into this system that doesn't have agency in what they do.
Yeah, and maybe even in the last season, we saw like the beginnings of the manipulation using family, because they manipulated Bell with Laven for pretty much like the entirety of getting him to do what he was doing. So I could very well see that was like the beginning, like Bell was almost the beginning of trying to manipulate somebody to do what they want, and then realize that like kind of giving them a little bit more freedom, giving Glaven a little bit more freedom wasn't good enough, and we need to have their family. I wouldn't even be surprised if they made the daughter sick in the first place.
Yeah, I wouldn't. That way they can't like financially leave, because like they'll probably never get a job that is this good where they can like keep paying for the treatments or whatever.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if you're right about that.
See, I like this version of Day a lot. And I know we kind of speculated that he was trying to help him by like cheating.
Yeah.
But then now kind of using his daughter as leverage. I get it. Day wants to leave. And, I think he's giving the other guy a great deal.
Yeah.
Maybe her illness is something so specific that like treatment is kind of unrealistic. You need something like the nanobots that are continuously fighting the illness. And so, he's basically like, okay, well, you can't save her with normal medicine, but I'll give you my nanobots. Mm-hmm. I won't need them anymore. And I think that, as shitty as it is that he's kind of using him as like, oh, well, I'll save your daughter. That's kind of a manipulative tactic. I think that giving up those nanobots is a huge give. So I love this version of Day. This is my favorite Day.
Yeah. I do too. The way he like casually walks around with this ferret, and it's like that's last episode when I rewatched and I was like recording him cheating. I didn't see that he had the ferret up his sleeve. Like when he put the card there or took the card there, like
the ferret was there.
The ferret's always with him. I absolutely love that. It was interesting that the girl he was with, at one point I was kind of wondering whether or not she was a plant of Demerzel's, that like, just like how Demerzel last season was betting a day in hopes of like keeping him in line, that she saw that this day was rebelling and trying to leave. And so she would give him something out, but like an out that she could keep an eye on. Like I was starting to get that possible idea, but then that was definitely killed this episode.
Well, especially early in the episode, she said, maybe we should stay closer to Demerzel. Like she was like defending Demerzel.
Yep.
And I mean, in hindsight, it's because she believes in the robot ideology or whatever. And so, yeah, I did kind of feel that too. And then, nope. Heartbreaking, but then also undercut with just like a bit of like lightheartedness with the whole giraffe bit of your giraffe just walked by, which is also another funny joke with like GIF and GIF. Like if you say it incorrectly, and like, so giraffe, you would be like, oh, this is how you say it. Yeah. So Day says it's a giraffe. That was a subtly comical moment before a big bombshell of pain.
Also, I thought the idea that a religion would form around worshiping robots isn't that far from, like, I think with the rise of AI, there are a number of people that are creating what they believe are real relationships with their personalized chatbot. And some of them are leaving their current relationships to be with this AI girlfriend. And I don't think it's a very far step from, having that kind of relationship to thinking that these things are omniscient and a group of people breaking off and worshiping them.
I mean, I could see that in our lifetime.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it feels very topical. AI
could get so good that a lot of people will start to worship it. Just like on Terminus, when they went through their religious phase with the Foundation, I feel like we could see that, where people are just like, we believe in AI and it's the all and be all.
Yeah, there's some things that, like, when people can't explain it, when they don't understand it, it just they imbue it with magical, mystical, properties or beliefs, and I feel like it's not that far for AI for some people in this world.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of psychosis has been happening, or like that's what it's being reported as, is that people have been sent into these psychosis like mindsets because they are so infatuated with this chatbot that it's able to tell them whatever, and they're like, this is truth, this is life, this is reality, versus like being like, oh, I know that this is just programming talking to me at this moment, and it seems real, but it's not really real.
Right. Let's move on to Calgon.
Okay. I think we did learn a little bit about Pritcher.
Yeah.
I think so. He's an agent of Gale. And that would explain why he was so interested in the Mule and wanting to get there and get eyes on him.
Yep.
Because it does seem like the Foundation doesn't know about Gale, but he did.
And it seems like the Mule didn't know about Gale.
Right. Which in the last season,
a big F up.
Yeah.
Well, we don't know if we've caught up to the Mule that was asking about, because the Mule seemed much more powerful.
Right. And that version of the Mule, he was like in the middle of war.
Yes.
When he recognized Gale Dornick was there.
Yes.
So I think another thing we picked up is that I think Pritcher is a mentalic.
I think so, yeah.
I don't know what his ability is, what he can do, but I definitely think, because the Mule says, you're like me.
You're like me, yeah.
Who's Gale Dornick? Crazy. I don't know why the Mule wouldn't go after that guy. Like, you would think that the Mule would be like, oh, wait a minute, I'm going to go after that guy, versus like the rich, famous guy that talks to him a little bit, he's going to chase him, versus, I mean, I know they stole his guy, but he didn't know that at the time.
They stole Maggie.
They stole Maggie.
I was thinking that Bayta and Toran might be the kind of comedic relief. Mm-hmm. I think that they might have more serious roles. I mean, I think they'll probably still supply some levity, but Maggie to me came off as like the potential comedic relief.
Yeah. And I know there's that moment where Pritcher feels like he fucked up for coming there.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I think bringing Bayta and Toran there and them getting Maggie and taking him off, I think is going to be a huge help to the Foundation. So even though Pritcher kind of made a mistake and he's like, oh crap, I screwed up, I think overall him bringing them and them doing like little Scooby-Doo detective sleuthing on their own, that will help, and so that Pritcher maybe didn't screw up as bad as he thinks.
Also, I definitely agree with that. I think he accidentally, stumbled into like bringing the right group there to really help out. Which, who knows? Like, maybe as a mentalic, like maybe part of that was like had a feeling of that's where to go, and he didn't necessarily understand that was the case. But I did love the mashup of different things in this club. It's got like an EDM vibe, but then to me, Bayta gives off like 1920s kind of kind of vibes, and then you've got, you know, Toran, who's wearing like rocking a skirt, which I feel like more and more celebrities are starting to do to like blur the lines of like these aren't necessarily gender things. Like Brad Pitt has been in one, Oscar Isaac has been in one, Jared Leto has been in one, you know, so it's like it was just this kind of like interesting match, and nothing felt out of place. Like I felt like they put all of that together well, and it looked like a cool environment.
Yeah, no, I loved that scene. It gave me Fifth Element vibes a little bit.
Yeah.
With just like the performance, everybody dancing, the costume, makeup, it felt very Fifth Element to me. I do have a bit of a theory.
Okay.
Of how we stopped the mule.
Okay.
And I think it's Maggie. I think Magnifico Giganticus is what does it, because he's talking about this like, one, it's a hypnotic music that he does. Two, it's when he's killing all the people at the gate, he's like, I am upset and like I don't have my thing that calms me down. And I think that with that music, we can maybe hypnotize him long enough to deal the final blow. That's my theory.
I can definitely see that. And I could see that he potentially, with like the slightly hypnotic aspect, like maybe makes people a little bit more susceptible to being manipulated, which I feel like we saw a little bit more of the manipulation, and it was absolutely wild. I feel like Skirlet, the little girl, at times I felt like she looked like she was all in, and sometimes even like smiling like she was having a good time. And then there were other times when I feel like you could see her eyes, and while she couldn't outwardly say like, please help me, it looked like she was trying to plead just with her eyes.
Right, like, I don't want to be here.
And I feel like we also saw that kind of with Toran, where it's like he clearly didn't want to do that, but couldn't do anything. And so finally being able to say like the command to like snap the picture or whatever.
Yeah.
That kind of like broke the connection. So it's interesting how that kind of works and how we saw a little bit more of it.
Yeah, and another part with that, with like the young girl, it's like it doesn't seem like the mule is putting in a lot of effort to control her anymore, but yet she is just like there and is like following him along and almost feels like an extension of him in a weird way that he can just kind of control without controlling, and she's just stuck there like a puppet. It's really scary.
It is.
And then I do have one more theory about the mule. Okay. I think Gale created the mule.
Okay.
And then here's why. Whatever Tellum was, I don't know what Tellum was. You know, we never saw what the original Tellum looked like. She'd just been jumping into body to body to body to body. Like, she could be some crazy alien. She'd be whatever. But the mule says, do you ever, like when he's killing that guy slowly, he's like, do you ever feel like your life is not your own and that you just have to go do these things and you have to go like blah, 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 blah. My thought is that normally Tellum would do that whole seance to fully transfer her consciousness over and then have full control over the body. I think when Gale and Harry initially killed Tellum and she got into that, we saw her jump into another body and kill Salvor, and then that kid was killed, and I believe she jumped again or floated in the ether for a while until maybe the mule came to existence, and she was like, I've heard this name before, I'm getting revenge on Gale, I'm going into the mule, and then that's, like, she doesn't have full control, so it's not Tellum in the mule, but like there's like a faint subconscious that is Tellum that is guiding the mule to do all this crazy stuff.
Ooh.
That's my theory.
And that, because he does seem unhinged.
Right.
And so that could definitely explain it if he doesn't feel like he's completely in control, if there's like something else in there that's scraping at the back of his mind.
And that's also why he's so powerful, because Tellum, who was probably the most powerful mentalic, was able to awaken his gifts or enhance his gifts. That's my theory. Will it get confirmed? I don't know.
I like that a lot. Yeah, this is more to you than anything else, because I don't think it fits with this episode. And I think I've actually kind of said it maybe like the first episode or something like that. But you'd asked last episode about if the people that like took physical body Harry, if they're gods or whatever. And I'm kind of going back and forth because, like, okay, maybe they're gods, but also we saw Calais' proof of folding again. And it just, like, when we think of like the Prime Radiant and the way that it's able to fold dimensions, it does once again make me wonder whether or not like that math also allows time to be folded, and like maybe she in this brilliant proof was able to like kind of code herself into it. And so she is able to exist in this kind of like folded space, time, whatever. And that's where she gets some of her power from. I don't know. That just...
I could see something along the similar lines. We mentioned there are gods. Like, what if there's so many different like religious undertones to the show? There's so many different faiths in the show. What if it's all like these faiths that kind of like come from like a bigger knowledge of like these gods, right? And the gods are so invested in Harry Seldon with his study of psychohistory, because the like devil, the guy that can come and manipulate you and trick you and to doing things that you don't want to do, so he can gain power. And so like the Mule or Tellum is like the devil or whatnot. And then these gods are here to kind of be like, we got to make sure that this devil doesn't get too out of control, like just another god. And they're just like, we got to keep this under control. And this is how we do it without like interacting, because we can't, because like our hands are tied, but we can kind of like push people in the right direction.
Also, it's possible that that's like a, if it's like a fourth dimension type of space folding, whatever, it does kind of remind me of Interstellar, where it's like, like this is the way it's always been, that these things end up affecting themselves, and possibly like the people that are in that like folded space know what's happened and know that they only carried out these actions, and those are the only things they can do to manipulate this world. Because like what has happened is always what has happened.
I could see that. One thing that bothers me about Foundation, and this is a very silly thing. Yeah. The amount of planets there are, and there's no aliens. We're all just people. There's not one weird, like, even just people looking with like a horn or any, there's none of that. Yes. It's all just people.
Intelligent life. There are alien, because like Becky is an alien.
Becky?
Becky.
Yeah. So
the birds that they were hunting in season 1.
The deer,
there is alien life, but there's no intelligent alien life.
Yeah, we all evolved from monkeys. We stopped evolving, and we're all just monkeys for eons.
I mean, the Empire seems kind of like the Roman Empire, where they're like colonizers.
Sure.
And maybe there was intelligent alien life, and Empire
eradicated it.
Fought wars against and eradicated all of it, and just as left like, I wouldn't put that past humanity. Like, humanity can be the best and the worst. Like we have great potential in either way.
Yeah, I I wish I could see some more aliens, but also from a practical standpoint, like, it's just better to just...
Yeah, and then there's also like the whole like how do you portray them? You know, I think in Star Trek and Star Wars they generally are pretty human like. And then maybe they'll be like, you know, Star Wars I think will have a little bit more creativity around them and have like something that's more Jabba the Hutt like. Yeah. But they still end up having like ears, eyes, nose, mouth, arms, you know, even if it's just like on a flat slug body. I don't feel like you really see a lot of like really unique representations of aliens. There's another show on Apple TV, and third season is actually coming out this year, Invasion. Mm-hmm. And they have a really cool representation of these aliens that are invading Earth. I like them. They're not humanoid at all.
Ooh, that's cool.
But I do feel like it would be tough to come up with if you were in a galaxy and you had to come up with like 30 designs like that, you know, where it's like, and all of them are unique.
Well, yeah, and then you can get bogged down in the weeds, like, of just like explaining like, oh, this creature, this person, and what this planet they come from, and I, you know, I think that the story has enough to it that you don't need it, but I just feel like in the vastness of a galaxy like that, and like how long the Empire's been going, even humans probably wouldn't look like humans anymore. We would probably look different because like over...
Like spacers?
Like spacers. Oh, I guess... Well, no, but spacers are genetically...
They're genetically like, humans, I think.
No, they're genetically humans, but they... Because at first I was like, spacers are aliens, but they were genetically modified to be what they are. Yeah, so... Yeah. But that's like the only like alien-ish species. Yeah. But with that, I think our journey has come to an end. Thank you folks so much for joining along. Come back next week as we will tackle Foundation Season 3, Episode 4. We look forward to having you. But until then, I'm Mark. This is Sterling.
Thanks.